One of my goals has always been to bring science and the paranormal together. Paranormal is just science undiscovered or misunderstood.
Every time I keep asking how good can it get, this prompts the participatory universe to provide us with answers that we genuinely do want to live the answer to.
Hello, my name is Christopher Anatra. You know me as the Quantum Businessman.
And I say, you know what? I don't need to know where I'm headed. I thought I knew where I was headed before and I didn't end up there. So why worry about where I'm headed? Why not just accept this now moment, trust that whatever guided me here with you guys that I feel is divine is going to continue to guide me.
The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe place to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regards to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. IMEC, or International Mandela Effect Conference, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization designed to support ongoing Mandela Effect research. To learn more about IMEC, please go to imec.world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome to the International Mandela Effect Conference Open Tables, Season 5, Episode 1, Breezy February. That's right, folks. We've got a heck of a show coming up for you guys, and I cannot wait to get into all of the interesting and amazing things that were sent to us or that were found by the team this month. But before we do, ladies and gentlemen, I have a team of people to bring on with me, and it's a team you guys know very, very well. Starting out, well, most of them. We got a surprise for you guys today. We have a special guest host. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But first, when you try to put two words together and they come out really messed up, we'll get to that here in just a moment. But first, I would like to bring on the first host of the day, ladies and gentlemen. You know her from realityshifters.com. It is Miss Cynthia Sue Larson.
Hello.
Glad to have you with us this month again, Miss Cynthia. Always a pleasure to see you.
Glad to be here.
Next up, we have Mr. Unbiased and on the Fence, Shane Robinson. Good to see you, Shane.
Good to see you guys.
And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest star with us this month. Somebody who was at our conference with us this past, November, was it? I forget the month.
Yeah.
I've slept since
November
then.
8th, yeah.
This past November, he did a talk at our conference, a wonderful talk at that. It is available online now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mr. Lee Boggess from Crazies Lab on YouTube.
Hey,
Welcome.
It's
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me. It's you. It's me.
Glad to have you here, Lee. We had a absolute blast at the conference. It was so much fun. You did a great job, my friend. And before we get into the slides and into everything, once again, I think Lee can attest to the fact that the talks are fun and everything's fun when you're, hanging out and listening to the speakers. But the real moments come after the talk when you're hanging out with everybody. And could you tell us a little bit about your experience real quick before we go forward?
Oh, man. First off, thank you to each and every one of you for bringing me here today, but yet giving me the opportunity to speak at the conference. November 7th, by the way, just to let you know.
Thank you.
But no, he is right. He's completely right. He's completely right. Seeing the speakers is one thing, but the atmosphere to hang out with not just the guests, the speakers, but with the guests, with the people that come in, just to be able to talk to them, hear their stories, just to be able to have a cup of tea or coffee, sit down with breakfast, lunch, we went to dinner every night and everybody went, and it was amazing. And that's the experience that you have to come enjoy. The talks are wonderful. You'll learn. But what you'll take from any of it is that just love that you get from that community. outside of everything, when it's all said and done, just the love, the LOV, you can't say much. And this family, you'll find your family, you'll find your tribe. Believe me, I found mine, and I found the past ones that are gone or not here anymore. Part of that family too, there too, as well. And that was an amazing thing. So, like I said, y'all got to come out there next year, or this year actually, because it's 25, and come experience that just comradeship and the love and fellowship of a family.
I appreciate it, Lee, and you did a wonderful job, my friend. You really did. Yeah, that's where the real fun part is, when you're able to hang out and get to know people individually, things like that. That's where the real love shows. And like you said, it's like a family reunion, a family you never met.
Exactly, by far.
It
Lots
really
of
is.
synchronicities.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
And I wanted to
we don't
speak to
talk
like
about
Lee.
that.
Just like you guys check out Lee's talk. It was awesome. But while you're watching it, realize that's his first time ever getting up and speaking. And he was such a natural. And I know that it has to be a great accomplishment for you, just the feeling of accomplishing that, because that's not an easy thing. That's like one of the biggest fears is public speaking. I mean, out of all of the fears, believe it or not. So
it really is
it really well. And you were so professional and such a natural. So
I appreciate it. And, for a lot of people, if you watch it, I have a little book, a notebook that's got notes on it, but I freestyle. It's off my head. I don't script it. I freestyle it. And that be right there when I saw it too, because I didn't remember what I said. And watching the conference myself, like you said, for my first time, I was amazed myself. And it gave me such a confidence to just be able to speak now even better. Just be able, not scared of it. So
and you kept us all engaged. You were very entertaining and fun, and it was a great talk, man. I really don't have anything negative to say about it at all. It's awesome.
You would have told
I
me.
fully second that. That first conference, Lee, I know what you mean, man. That first conference that we ever did, I was hosting that one too, and it first time I'd hosted any kind of event of that nature, right? So I'm running around 7 ways from Sunday, making sure everything, my attention is split every which way but sideways, right? So when I went back and watched the videos of the conference, it was all new to me, and I was in the room when it happened.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. It's like, man, who took over me?
Yeah.
But it's like
ladies,
Cynthia was also, what you say is like, yeah, it's just you go into your higher self, your higher being comes into you,
Totally.
Your spirit starts to talk.
Yeah.
And that's
where the script actually can get in the way, you know what I mean?
Pretty much.
Like you're trying to stick to the script instead of allowing your higher self to come through with what really needs to be heard.
So true.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot to cover today. I would like to give a quick shout out to our chat over here on the YouTubes. We got Super Mario Brothers 3. Yeah, that's really the name. Crazies Lab, Lisa Arachne, Cynthia hanging out in the chat, Christina V, Juliana 93, unbiased and on the fence. And of course, I'm hanging out there too, guys. I am watching the chat. I'm not actually typing, as I've got enough going on that I don't need to try to throw that wrench into the thing too. But ladies and gentlemen, with that said, let us start rolling on into what we have on our slide deck this month. We've got a show agenda coming up with board member updates to start things off, followed by Cupid's Arrow. Well, it is the month of February. Why else? February's Breeze. February's Breeze. Now, what could that be? Propeller cars. Sun candles. Night parrots return after 100 years. Oh, we have a Lazarus, maybe, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody knows I've got a little sweet spot for those. Perhaps that's what that may be. Are penguins really extinct? I know, sounds crazy, but could it be true? Mailbag and Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a great show for you guys coming up, a lot to cover, so let's jump right into the board member updates. Starting off with Miss Cynthia Sue Larson of RealityShifters.com. How has your month been, Miss Cynthia?
It's been amazing. It's just really awesome. I did get to try the custard apple. A friend of mine grows exotic fruits, and she brought it up from Southern California. I'm in kind of Northern California, so we don't have those exotic fruits here, the custard apple. And hers She had a big one, but that one fell off the tree. So she brought me a couple of small ones. They're so amazing. And I have a little video short on my channel, like a YouTube short, where I'm actually trying it out. You can see my reaction as I'm sampling it. So that's pretty cool. The other big thing that happened this month is that Greg Braden's book, Pure Human, came out. I did a video on that as well, and a blog post, because I've never heard that phrase used in this lifetime until Greg's book. And it resonates deeply for me because it ties in with my past life and the future, like some 500 years from now. So I do have a YouTube about that as well, and the blog post about how important it is for those of us looking at transhumanism to make a conscious choice to harness the technology that's right within our bodies, is built into our DNA. And Greg Braden's book touches on that. There's this really incredible message encoded right into the DNA itself. That's, God is within the body, and it's extraordinary. I mean, it's an amazing book. I'm not just trying to plug the book, but it brings to mind something that is really top of my mind right now, having to do with the convergence between basically AI, the disclosure of ETs and UFOs, which will be coming up in the next few years, and the telepathy tapes. I was involved with one of the first autistic authors more than 20 years ago, or around that time, when he came out with the idea that people who are autistic are usually extremely psychic. And so I was supportive of his work when that came out. Now we've got the telepathy tapes, and these kids are able to do amazing psychic things. These are kids that can barely speak sometimes, but they're able to just telepathically read what they're seeing that someone behind them is reading from a book, that kind of thing. And so the reason that I see the convergence between ETs, AI, and telepathy is because this is where it's all coming together. And we'll be getting into some psychic technology soon. It's already coming. That was part of what I came from in my past life and the future. It drives everything I'm doing in my lifetime now. It's very focused, you may notice. Pretty much everything I've done is tied into that, to harness the human abilities that we, each and every one of us, have. So that's what the big subject of my newsletter, which I publish once a month, is. I also created this is just an AI picture. I think last month I talked about an AI book, Dimensions of Love. A chat GPT on Facebook was there. There we go. Yeah, a chat GPT on Facebook.
It does not want to show that picture.
I know, right? Like this never
Let's try it
happened.
again. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my god.
Maybe if you put it over your face, it'll.
Wow.
There we go.
Okay. Now
there it is.
Okay, that's a creation. I'm using the Grok version 2 AI to generate something originally hypothesized by Facebook AI, which was sent to me by an author, and she'd asked a simple question to the Facebook AI, trying to get information about a certain topic. In the answer, it specifically named a book I've never written called Dimensions of Love. Then I'm the one that asked the Grok AI, can you create a cover for this book? And so it did. The book that doesn't exist in this reality.
That's hilarious.
I know. I was just having fun with the whole thing. So that's what I put together in my February newsletter for Reality Shifters, talking about
awesome.
that.
That's fun.
It is fun. And then the other big thing that you might be interested in my newsletter, it's free. It's on my website. One of our other speakers, Trish Lesage, she shares in this newsletter an experience where she crossed over into a parallel universe, and it was set during the Civil War. So she walked back in time to the Civil War, and I've got her exact report on what happened. So that's in the February Reality Shifters. Every month it's free. It's on my website. I also publish it through Substack. So you can check that out if you're interested in that kind of thing. I think those of us who are interested in this whole phenomenon with the Mandela Effect, of course, it's challenging all of our preconceptions about reality. That's what the Mandela Effect does. And I've been on this trail for 25 years now. So it's very interesting to me to look at the time anomalies. And I think we're going to be seeing that a lot more once we get AI, the ET disclosure, and the telepathy thing. Again, they're converging. Where are they converging? They're just blowing apart our entire ontology. And we do talk about that in our green room this month too. Anybody that's a Patreon, you get to check that out. So, and then the other thing I want to shout out, we still have openings for, I'll be doing an event in Crestone, Colorado with Paula Harris. She's an ET experiencer and an author. Then the Julian Chanteroy, he's French. Those are the, try this again. Oh my gosh. Well, it's in my newsletter also. It's on my website. Sorry about the blurriness. It comes in and out of focus. I'll just read it to you. It's a journey to consciousness in the modern world. We'll be meeting August 22nd to the 24th, Crestone, Colorado. It's considered the UFO viewing spot in the country because it's just wide open space in the middle of nowhere up there. It's like the Himalayas. It's so high up and definitely a hot spot for seeing, the CE5 kind of things. But we'll be working on oneness and where human consciousness needs to go, what we're evolving into, and how it all works. So that'll be lots of fun. You'll get to be with your soul family if you join us. So that's the big updates for this month. Thank you.
And as Christina V in the chat said, Greg is wonderful. He is absolutely awesome. I love a lot of the ideas that he has, is the concepts that he gets into, especially like you said, with the way things are coming out now. It's really, and I know better, but one can't help but wonder at times if AI is really working within a number of dimensions.
Yes.
If it's really hallucinating or if it's telling you information from different sources that we may not be exactly privy to. Now, again, I'm pretty sure that's not the case, but who knows? Who knows? But thank you so much, Cynthia. Ladies and gentlemen, do make sure you check out realityshifters.com. Do sign up for the newsletter. It is always, always, always something that is fun to get in your inbox, and just it's a great read. It really is. It always makes my day when I see that pop up. So makes my month, I should say.
Thank you.
That is an interesting story. Maybe sometime you can tell that again, where how it created you a whole new book that you hadn't ever written, or hadn't written yet. I mean, one of the two, right? But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our next update. We don't have Chris with us, folks, but we do have a Lee. We have a Lee with us. So, Lee, how has your month been? How's it going over on your YouTube channel? And have you had any Mandela Effect moments this month?
It's going pretty good. YouTube's going pretty good. I'm just doing a lot of stuff, getting myself back into it. Big changes in this 2025 so far, shedding off that old skin, going into the snake, you got to shed our skins, to a whole new world, I say. And however you want to put it, and other than that, a few new Mandela effects. We brought a few up in the green room, or on the side there for you. But really, I'm sitting here lost. What's on my mind is I was just rethinking. It was Black History Month. I was just thinking about George Washington Carver for some reason. Earlier I had made a video. It's actually my new video, Mandela Effects. I got George Washington Carver, a little Black History Month there, where we all believed he made peanut butter, and it wasn't. It was Mr. Dr. Kellogg, guy who made Kellogg Frosted Flakes,
Or Eli Whitney was another one.
Yes.
Yeah. Kellogg, the guy who made your Frosted Flakes, your Kellogg has had the whole hospital where he fed them. You know the story, and fed people.
No, because every time I know the story changes.
He was the one who invented peanut butter, not George Washington Carver. Not the black guy we remember.
No way. No way.
But then Shane just brought up, you said Eli Whitney. Eli Whitney is an old one too, but Eli Whitney, we learned that he was an African-American male that invented the cotton gin. Well,
Right.
Cotton gin, yeah.
Yeah, he's not white. He's white.
He's not
now.
white. He's white now.
Yeah, he's not black.
He's whiter than me, and I'm mixed.
And the funny thing to go along with what you're saying, Lee, is I was just talking to an older black gentleman the other day, and he was like, talking about how a lot of times they'll take the credit away from the black man and goes, they did it to Eli Whitney. And I'm like, I didn't tell him. I didn't have the heart to interrupt him. But I was like, oh, you're gonna be surprised.
Don't ruin his day to day. Oh no, you can't tell me. Soon to take the traffic light away from the black man too, right? The shampoo.
Well, they already switched how it runs.
That's right. They did, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, that is
You
so true.
know, funny about that is the only one I ever remember being backwards was on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It is not backwards anymore, by the way.
I was saying, if you watch Doctor Strange, the Madness Melted Universe, the newest one, you will
Right.
see the original way it's supposed to be. Because her kid has it in the corner, the way it stand up, the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Producer, could you go ahead and grab EFH comment for the end of the show? I appreciate that. Added to our question pile there. Shane Robinson. Thank you, Lee, for the update. We much appreciate that. Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence. How's your month been? You've been doing a lot of stuff on the channel. What's going on with you, sir?
I've been Mr. Observer as far as trying to keep an eye out, for some more of these drones. I did a video on what I did see over there. You can check that video out. And I did want to point out, Lee actually did a video that you forgot to mention about the eagle, the bald eagle. Remember the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up really fast. So for those of you that thought the bald eagle was always, and I think we might have covered that last month too, didn't we?
I think we touched on it.
Or in the green room or somewhere we talked about it. But yeah, it's so we officially had the bald eagle now. So for those of you that grew up thinking it just now happened.
Oh, it's sad.
The other thing is I've been noticing more and hearing more reports about I think you can think of them like flip-flops, just things changing a lot. But I noticed that as a flip-flop going one way and then the other way. And if Heather can go full screen on my camera, I'll show this little picture I took. We went to Incredible Pizza, and let me get it to focus a little bit. Oh, it's not wanting to do it. Anyway, there's a diner, Norma Jean's. You can kind of see it, make it out there. And it's spelled in the original way that it used to be spelled, Norma Jean. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, I gotta, well, first my wife was sitting there. We were in this, diner at Incredible Pizza. And I'm like, look, and she's like, what? And I'm like, look at the way the name's spelled. And she's like, what? And I'm like, Marilyn Monroe's name, it was, spelled like this the whole time with just Jean, her name. And so I looked it up, and when I looked it up, it had changed back to Norma Jean. It was like, it wasn't a Mandela effect anymore. So so I'm trying to show her, and she goes, no, it's always been that way. And I'm like, but it had switched. And I'm like, I gotta email the team. So I immediately emailed the team. Right. And then nobody responded to me for a few days, and they're like, we looked and it hadn't changed back. And I'm like, what? And then so I looked it up and it changed back again. So it's like while I was in the restaurant, it's like I jumped into an alternate universe or something. And maybe just that diner setting, because it had so many, I don't know, maybe it did have that older atmosphere. So it does kind of feel like you're in a different reality. But while I was in there, on Wikipedia and everything, her name had not been Mandela affected to have the E. Norma Jean, Marilyn Monroe's real name. Anyway, that's the kind of trippy thing. That's really all I had to
that's wild
update on. But yeah, they noticed it, and I was like, why didn't they hit me back? This is huge. We talked about this, and they're like, yeah, it didn't change for me. I'm like, what? Nobody. I was like, oh, okay. All right, evidently it didn't, but yeah, so it does happen. I saw it right before my eyes, and then of course I was able to go back to my wife, which she got to see it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty cool when that
That's so cool.
We have one that I may throw in later that you brought up in the green room, or somebody brought up a moment ago in the green room that just blew my ever-loving mind. So we may pull that as an extra here in a little while, but thank you, Shane, for the update. Very, very much appreciate that. Where can people find your work, sir?
UOTF.net, and I just put it in the chat.
It can be really frustrating when you go and you find some information. That's happened to me too, Bubba. You go and you find some information, all right, I'm sure of this. I can actually, with confidence, say this. You send out the email, you go back and look, and it is changed from what it was that you read.
Right. I even screenshot where it said Norma Jean redirects to here, or Norma, the regular spelling, redirects to here. So that part had saved on Wikipedia, but it had changed. But it actually said that when I looked it up the first time, thinking the name had, the E in it, which it didn't at that time. So it's just so weird to see it going back and forth, just right in front of your eyes like that, you know.
It is weird when you see that. It's something you can't explain. It gives you that Mandela Effect feeling.
So Jerry, what's new with you? I want to make sure we cover.
Oh, look at you. Well, if you must, I appreciate it, Cynthia. It's been an interesting month for me, ladies and gentlemen, as we have rebranded again. I think we've hit our last rebranding for a little while anyway. The DWD show will always be a paranormal show. It is set aside for a moment, as there hasn't been a whole lot of big data coming out in that realm. When the data comes out again, I'll gladly pull that back. But we're doing the Jerry Hicks show now. We are across a number of platforms. It is a nightly political broadcast, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, here. If you're into the political spectrum, definitely go give it a like on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, X. We're across all platforms, as well as TikTok, unfortunately. This has been a battle with TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. It's definitely a different platform, so we're working on that, trying to figure them out. And like I said, we're across all the different platforms. So if you're into the political spectrum, come check us out. We'd be glad to have you over there. That's pretty much been everything I've been working on. Kind of in between jobs right now, so looking for a little bit of employment. I'm not hurting. Thanks for state benefits. I can actually validate state benefits are going out, folks. I promise they are. But again, I'm not going to get too deep into anything on that spectrum. But ladies and gentlemen, that's what I've been doing this month. Not a whole lot of anything, just following the political stuff, doing a nightly show. If you guys enjoy the nightly stuff, come on. We'd be glad to have you. I've been throwing up some comedy stuff every now and again. I go to InVideo AI and I'll make like a little funny video like wizards meet aliens or something like that. Hilarious encounters. I always try to put a little fun twist on them. So a little bit of everything as far as creation goes, mainly political, and that's been my month. So thank you so much, Cynthia, for asking.
And one IMEC update would be, we've got 2 surveys running still. One of them is on our YouTube channel that would be the Golden Mandy 2024. And you can find it in the community page on our YouTube site. Please vote. I know a lot of people are wanting to write in for people that didn't get nominated. The nominations got closed out at the end of last year. But I know Crazies Lab is very popular, so obviously. And I think some people wonder, how come we can't nominate people that have won before, or those of us who are on IMEC? And we've explained that before. We don't do that because we're judging it. And if someone's already won, then they got their chance and we're still honoring them. They don't go away. We're still respecting the work that they've contributed. The other survey, there's a link to it that's been sent out before, and it's to the, I think it's on our community page too. That would be for the location for this year's IMEC in-person conference. So please vote for that too if you get a chance.
Those numbers are running really close to. So I'm excited to see both who wins the Golden Mandy as well as where we end up having the conference, ladies and gentlemen. That is completely up to you guys. Like I said, the numbers are close. Make sure you guys head on over there and cast your vote if you haven't already. And that's on our YouTube channel, right, Cynthia?
Yeah, the Golden Mandy's on the YouTube. That's where you can see the vote. Once you cast your vote, you get to see how it's going. So that's fun. Little instant feedback.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Cynthia. All right, folks, that is our updates for the month. Let's head on into the meat and potatoes of the slideshow here. Let's see what we have. Producer, let's roll them up. We have Cupid's arrow, ladies and gentlemen. Many people. So how do you remember Cupid's arrow looking? I guess would be the question, right? Mm-hmm. So, Cynthia, how do you remember the arrow looking?
Well, I remember there's a cherub like flying around, usually just one cherub. This picture has 3 of them. So I just remember one Cupid, first of all. One.
That's fair.
And then usually naked like that, little cherubic wings. I remember the bow and the arrow. I do remember typically when I see the artwork, the tip of the arrow is like a heart shape. The idea being that the Cupid is shooting a heart into the lover, so they don't have any choice in the matter. It's like boing, like whoever gets shot, then they fall in love with whoever they're looking at. So the connection is made via Cupid's arrows, and they are heart shaped at the tip.
How about you, Shane? Do you remember a heart-shaped arrow at the tip?
I definitely remember the heart on the tip, and just one Cupid, not a whole fleet of them.
And yourself, Mr. Lee, do you remember a fleet of Cupids, and was it an arrow tip?
I don't know if I saw 3 Cupids, I'm running away. I don't need 3 times. First off. But at the same time, no, I remember a heart shape definitely for the arrow. But the bow looks different to me too as well, but maybe that's different interpretations, but the arrow definitely was a heart.
I definitely don't need 3 Cupids. By God, I do good to keep one woman happy and can't even do that right. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, would you be surprised to know that the heart-shaped tip has never, ever been a common feature in historical art? That's right. It's always been a standardized arrow tip. So if you recall it being a heart-shaped tip, ladies and gentlemen, that is not what reality records for some weird reason. The heart-shaped tip is not a common feature in historical art, mythology, or even some contemporary representations. Now, I understand the 3 cherubim, as cherubim are actually a whole class of angels. So, like, I get that as much as we did joke about that. But the arrow tip, actually, I remember it being a heart shape too. As you pointed out, Cynthia, it kind of denoted, or Shane, one of the two, denoted you didn't have a choice. You get shot with that arrow, you're stuck, basically. It's a special arrow. It was shaped differently. And I remember it even having the feathers on the back, the line feathers like everybody draws, but I don't see those there either. Maybe that's just me.
And when the heart hits you, it's supposed to just love. I know
Right.
it just do a pounce around or whatever you want to call it, aura.
You know, it's interesting. Although I remember the heart with the the bow and arrow and the heart. When you ever see the heart that's been struck by the arrow, it's always a regular arrow. You think about it. It's never got the heart tip when it's drawn.
No, because as Lee pointed out, it's done burst.
Right.
But I see what he's saying, and there's a regular arrow going through a regular heart. Once you see the heart, the real love. Yeah. So
yeah.
Shot through the heart. Oh wait.
Yeah. Okay, love.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before we break your eardrums here, trying to pretend that we can sing, in all seriousness, Cupid's arrow, ladies and gentlemen, was not shaped like a heart in this reality, whatever reality we find ourselves in. Quick shout out to the chat, R9K, Ral, the same person there actually. And they have Melinda Iverson in saying aloha, aloha, Melinda. Glad to have everybody here today. If you are hanging out there and not saying something in chat, go ahead and drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. At least let us know that you're out there and enjoying what you're seeing. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have, slide please, February Breeze, Febreze, Febreze. Shane, what in the world am I looking at here? What did you create?
Well, I wanted to... it's a little bit lesser known, but I've found a few other people that also remember the original Febreze actually having an A at the beginning. Febreze, like Febreze, and making that connection that, like, for me, I came in and I was like, what the heck is that smell? That smells awesome. And my wife's like, oh, it's Febreze. Like, what is it? Oh, you just sprayed on upholstery. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, fabric breeze. It made sense to me, right? You spray it on fabric stuff to freshen it up. And I'm not sure, it was only after one of the E's got lost that I realized that it had actually changed twice, because it went to Febreze for a lot of people. They remember it being FE, which I would have immediately connected with the month of February, right? Had I had it been Feb in the very beginning for me, that's what I would have thought. Oh, it's like almost spring, I don't know. I would have just thought of it as that. So
for you, it was Febreze, F-A, is that
yeah,
it? Like
at the
fabric.
very beginning when it first came out, yes, it was like
Yeah.
fabric breeze was the sort of connection I made when my wife was, talking about spraying it on the fabric,
Febreze, yeah, that makes sense.
But it was always pronounced Febreze,
It made me think too. It's like Febreze. I was like, that almost sounds like it should be it, but I always
and I've had a lot of people like I think I'll see Melinda's thing. I remember A and the double E. So yeah, that's how when it first came out, I remembered it like the very top one there. And I have a very specific memory note of kind of because I've always been in the logos and name brands and things like that. I consider what is it saying? It's always saying something like, oh, it's clever. It's a fabric breeze. It's freshening up fabric. So that was my initial memory note that would have never been that way had it been FEB. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I love that memory and how you put things together to remember something works so well, and how false memory is just thrown out nonsense towards these things, because everybody something.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And I agree with you, Lee, because when I remember how to spell things, that's when the spellings change, and for sure you had a mental,
right, like dilemma.
Yeah,
like we all knew we had to put that in there when it didn't make sense.
Dilemma, yes.
Yeah, because why would we
say dilemma?
Yeah, we would not. Right. Now it makes no sense because it was never spelled that way, supposedly. This is very interesting.
The Febreze, the first one there, I'm not sure if it's because I've seen it maybe on one of the trivia quizzes or what it is, but it almost looks right. Like you said, a distant, faint, like, wait, was it at one time? So I'm not 100 on that. I'm not going to stand on that. I'm not going to die on that hill, if you will, but it does look familiar-ish.
More familiar than the one with one E. That's
much more familiar. Yes.
Yeah, something's all wrong with that. That's wrong.
I was like you, Jerry. It's like that just sounds so right. It would be so right in the beginning.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it almost seems like a distant memory. Like I've seen it before, but I don't want to misplace where I've seen it. It may have been one of the trivia quizzes, like which way is the correct way of spelling the, So I'm not 100. I'm not going to stand on that and say, oh yeah, that's right. I'm sure it was way back, but it does look, like you said, Shane, much more familiar than Febreze.
Absolutely.
So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Did it go from Fabric Breeze to February Breeze? Was it FAB at one point? Do you remember that? That's up to you to decide, folks. That's
and the one on the left. The one on the left in the picture is the current version of it, with one E. So
the Febreze.
The Febreze.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one on the right never existed with an E or an A. So yeah, I like to throw in like one of these oldies but goodies, because anybody that's sort of new to the Mandela Effect, you can kind of see experience or really understand. It's just something doesn't exist in the way you remember it. And this is a perfect example, because we've all seen these, the Febreze anyway. I think this affects most people. It's kind of like the big check, we all remember the big check.
I love going back to the fundamentals, and that's one point I was about to bring up. A lot of people say, well, why do you keep going back to Ed McMahon or Febreze or Berenstein Bears, or, those are old ones. They might be, but those are the ones that the majority of the people agree is not right. Those are the foundational Mandela effects, if ever there were. You know what I mean? Luke, I am your father. Mandela itself. Go ahead, Lee.
It's funny you say that, because that's what I'm starting to do on my channel, is revamp the older ones, because everything new is like, I tell everybody's like, hey, Mandela Effect might not be new to you, but it will be new to somebody else. And and I always tell people, respect that, because one blew your mind when you didn't believe. But yeah, bringing back the old ones is where it began, and that's what it's going to keep bringing it up and keep it alive, and then more people are going to remember, and more people are going to see. Just brings awareness too.
More residue as well. Someone
Yeah.
was, I saw someone did a video and they were showing all these places where they were describing Rodin's thinker statue in books as the fist being to the forehead, you know, and I was like, wow. So even as we go over time, people are going to find more and more that support some of these foundational ones that affect so many people.
Yeah.
You know,
Or like
there's
you were
no,
saying-
that's 100% one for me, you know.
Or like you were saying about the statue that you had, you know, just wish you had that memory, but some people, if they'll see it like a Mandela effect, or maybe like the Bernstein Bears, or maybe an old VHS, somebody might have Shazam. But, you know, when they might just start like, oh man, I got a box of that stuff, you know, maybe Mickey Mouse with his suspenders, you know, stuff like that. You know, so you never know. That's the cool thing about this, you know, people finding things they never thought they had within this whole.
What's really interesting about the thinker is we literally watched that thing morph a number of times in real time as a community. Right? Like we watched it go from the head down here, then it went up here, then it went like this. Like we literally watched him change positions over time, a number of times. So it wasn't
Mona
just
Lisa was the same way. Yeah.
Mona Lisa, we've done the same thing with Statue of Liberty. We might come back to her here in a minute. Depending how much time we have. That one, yeah. But it's those fundamental ones, though. I think those are the most important ones because we can argue about these small ones, these newer ones that come up all day long, but there's already a very established set that can't be explained away. And that is the fundamental Mandela effects, the Febreze, the Jiffies, the Berenstein, you know, the original, 20 or 30 or 100 or however many for you, right? And speaking of new Mandela effects, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what kind of new slide we have coming up. Next, we have propeller cars. Wow, these just didn't seem to take off, did they?
It's better this time. It's just because we got it, but it is better this time.
It looks like it's trying to take off, but it doesn't have the wings.
What is a propeller car, ladies and gentlemen? I asked the same thing when I seen this picture. At the beginning of the 20th century, the automobile world was still in its early years, and car designers and engineers were overflowing with ideas. So they decided to try to make a plain helicopter car thingy. Kidding. Moreover, engineers of that era often took inspiration from the advancements in aeronautics and tried, exactly what I just said, and tried to implement innovations from that field in their automotive projects as well. One more slide. I do believe we can hop over to that next slide. Though the design never really picked up or never really took off, I guess you would say. That one looks like it's got even less chance of taking off. The screen is not going to work for you, bud. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying, I think there's a video clip after you read this too. Yeah.
Appreciate the reminder because I sure would have overlooked that. The Layette helicopter propeller car brought a fresh perspective on car design and inspired research into automotive aerodynamics. Why do we still not have flying cars? And we're not talking just about the engine here because Layette saw the larger picture and improved the entire car, reducing its weight and drag. As Cynthia pointed out, we do have a very quick video before we get into this discussion for what it's going to be. What am I looking at? Is that using a lawnmower engine? What in the world? Is that a Briggs and Stratton? What's running that thing?
This was after the Model T.
Yeah.
Well, when was the Model T? Was it
black and white?
Well,
Model T was
this
the
is a
1920s, I
reproduction.
want to say.
That's what I thought, and this was
Yeah, so that's right,
right
yeah.
around that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, propeller cars. All right, guys, have you guys ever heard of propeller cars? Like, I know I've seen some weird things in my time, but never in all my time of cars. And I've worked in a car shop, which I don't mean a whole lot. I worked in O'Reilly's, to be fair. Have you ever heard of a propeller car, Cynthia, Shane, Lee? What?
Absolutely not.
No.
And if it played such a huge role in aerodynamics and all of that, you would have thought that, you know, we would have heard about it because of that.
Yeah,
We just
I
see
would have.
one of those off last. Sorry, go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, I would have. Like sometimes I've seen videos showing the metamorphosis of the early cars to the modern cars. This would have been such a fun one to insert in the string of this is how the car was developed. It would have been just such a funny insert. When I've seen animated little reviews of the earliest cars, that just looks like people are just sort of riding on a buckboard and there's no protection whatsoever.
Right.
And this would be along the way. It's like, okay, now it's covered and it sounds like a lawnmower and it's got this funny propeller in the front with a whole huge screen safety apparatus around it. No, I'm sure I would have seen this. So it seems like it's a historical insert, like obviously a Mandela effect. Because some people ask us, why do you guys feel so certain that you would have seen this before? How do you know that it's not just something that you weren't aware of? But the point is, there are right now, we've got 4 of us plus the entire audience, everyone in the chat. And I'd love to hear if anyone in the chat had ever heard of this before. But the point is, if so many of us have never heard of this before, and there are lots of reasons we would have expected to have seen it, like just like the kind of thing I'm describing, kind of historical review. The very first car looked like this, and then it metamorphosized into this, and so forth. This was missing from the whole thing, and they definitely would have loved to have inserted something like this because it's just goofy. It adds humor, and it wasn't there. So to me, this is how I know we've got a Mandela effect on our hands.
I've never, as pointed out in the chat by Rose, she said, I think I might have seen at least a picture of this before, but like I said, I'm new. I just got here a couple years ago from some other timeline, methinks. Methinks you might be right, Miss Rose. That's a good possibility because I've never seen this either. Now, I don't know every car. I don't know every, model that's ever been made. I'm not a car guy, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I am. Like I said, I worked in the shop for a little while in O'Reilly shop, but with that said, folks, what about Disney movies, right? This looks like something right out of a Disney movie. Where is the part where they take this and make some kind of flying car out of it, right? Like this is set up for a Disney movie if ever I've seen it. Like the prop is already made here, right there, propeller cars, right?
And steampunk, any of the steampunk animation stuff, it would have been right there.
I was thinking I'm a history buff and I like the History Channel or Discovery, when they do those, back in the, history of cars or history of Ford, you would think you would have heard some kind of competition to make the best one aerodynamic,
right.
You think you would have heard, but no.
That's such a perfect, funny side note. Like, look at this thing.
Yeah.
Think of how cool this would have been in that era. You know what I mean? Even though it's not, you could see it's not very practical in so many ways, but it would have been pretty cool back in the 1900s to see this. You'd be like, wow,
Yes. It would have been at the World Fair, that kind of thing,
Totally.
Like cars of the future.
Probably was now, actually.
Great grandfather. Man, I had me a propeller car.
Even at the World's Fair, where was the pictures of something like that? That's a good point too.
Yeah. That would have been the concept car, right? Sitting on
the
turntable or whatever.
So, ladies and gentlemen, do you remember the aero car? I mean, the propeller car? I mean, the whatever that is that we're looking at? The cross of aerodynamics in car. And again, seeing this, I question, this is 2025. Why do we not have flying cars yet? They had the concept back that far? What happened? Then again,
it's basically a lawnmower if they turn that thing downward.
Basically, yeah.
Bugs Bunny would have drove one of those. It'd been one of those one of the Looney Tunes cartoons. That's all I think of it. You ever seen it there?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Right. Like you would have think we'd have come across it at the very least if this had been.
Mm.
And again, maybe it was a concept. Maybe it's a one-off, but it doesn't seem to me. It seems to me like this was actually a thing at one point. So that's up to you to decide, ladies and gentlemen. You be the judge.
Studio Ghibli too. Someone in the comments pointed that out. I would have remembered seeing them. I think that would have been perfect for Studio Ghibli. Yeah, if you can see the comment there, I want to give credit to the person who said that. That was
Juliana93. I've never seen this in physical reality, but it hugely makes me think of the scene in the Studio Ghibli movie Kiki's Delivery Service where Tommo is riding his propeller bicycle.
Yes. And SVLSRV0010, they're the one that mentioned Studio Ghibli first in our comment stream.
Yeah.
So give a shout out there.
Yeah, they were both thinking about it at the same time.
Yes.
Well, Chris looks different, said Jeremy. Just a little bit. Just a hair.
Yeah, for those of us just joining us in progress, Chris is not here today. We've got Lee Allen Boggess from Crazies Lab. So.
I know.
Special guest host of the day. Glad to have you here, Lee.
Thank you. I'm glad they noticed I'm not Chris.
or funny looking Chris. One of the two, right?
Poor Chris. Funny buddy.
Shane, this was your slide deck. I've got to step away a moment. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, sir.
All right. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so we actually covered the diamond dust pillars last month. And then on the heels of that, we have these sun candles. A sun candle is a snow phenomenon, also called a subsun. It's a rare atmospheric optical illusion that occurs when sunlight interacts with tiny flat ice crystals suspended in the air, typically within cirrus clouds or ice fog, creating a vertical beam. A light that appears to rise from the sun, often seen in snowy conditions, making it look like a luminous pillar stretching skyward. Essentially, the ice crystals act like tiny mirrors reflecting sunlight directly towards the observer. And we actually have a video. This is so much more stunning if we watch the video.
Oh, that is awesome.
Isn't it?
It's so huge. It's
It
so
almost
big.
looks like one of those wind tornado things, but you know.
That is
What
almost
the
kind of
heck?
looks like an angel just standing in there in this force field.
Yeah.
Aura. That's cool.
I can't believe no one skied down through it. I would have went through it. Let's see what happens. Might end up in a, might be like a portal or something.
I was thinking.
So these are definitely new to me. I'm not in a really snowy area. We've had snow. We have snow in different places I live. We have snow right now, actually. I should probably go look for one. But yeah, these are awesome looking. Did you already know about these, Cynthia?
No, they're new to me, and it seems like, aside from this year, I haven't seen any footage or videos or film of them, but now here they are, and so it's curious. And again, people are going to say, well, you guys just weren't paying attention. You should have known about this, maybe. But then how come we've never seen photos or videos of it? So totally new for me. I don't get that much snow where I am. So, obviously I'm not exposed to the opportunity to see it in person. But even so, I would have thought that I would have seen it before. So we can, again, look to the chat, see if this is new for people. And if it seems like it's new for a lot of us, then that's a pretty solid case. We've got a Mandela effect. So not just something like, oh, we never heard of this before, but it's always existed.
EFH in the chat says, sun candle, no way. I watch all sorts of weird things on Weather Channel. I do too. Yeah, I've never
I do too. I've never seen one, but I don't live anywhere where it snows. So, but I figured I would have heard one of those. I mean, I've lived in Europe and stuff, but I've never seen
EFH grew up in Chicago, so they have plenty of snow up there, like St. Louis. Enough that you notice something like this at some point.
I'm back. I appreciate it, guys. I've seen this a number of times just in the last week or two.
Okay,
Really?
but it's pretty new. It's like it only showed up recently.
Exactly. You guys sent the email, of course. Somebody in the team did, and we got to talking about it. I think it was actually Chris, if I'm not mistaken. But we talked about the pillars last month, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watch a lot of reaction videos on YouTube, whatnot. I have seen all kind of people showing these sun candles all of a sudden. I thought, wow, those look like interesting pillars. And then, like I said, the email came across with the sun candles here. This is strange. I've never seen this phenomena before. This is brand spanking new. And apparently we're not the only ones that think so, or it wouldn't be going on all of these reaction channels and all these different people going, wait, what am I looking at? So this is definitely something that's interesting. According to science, of course, it's always been a thing, right? Swamp gas, Venus, all that.
I like Juliana 93's comment here because I'm a Star Trek fan too. Juliana 93. She's like saying, beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, it's a beam me up, Scotty sun candle. I love that, Juliana.
Yeah.
It does kind of look like the graphic they use, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
I want to know if I run into it, will I wake up in another reality?
That's what Shane said.
Yeah, Shane would try skiing through it, see if he ends up somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
All right. Are we?
So I've got my grandbabies here with me today, so I may be a bit distracted here and there. I do apologize.
No problem. No problem.
Excuses.
Excuses.
Well, I think we've got something really cool on the next slide.
Think so? Well, let's find out, ladies and gentlemen. It is... Ooh. So as you guys know, I have a very, very deep soft spot for the Lazarus animals. And we haven't had a whole lot of them this year. Then again, the year's just started, right? We haven't had a whole lot over the last 6 months. Let me put it like that. But looks like, ladies and gentlemen, somebody has sent this in to us. Second ever elusive night parrot egg discovered in Australia. A night parrot. This has been extinct for 100 years, ladies and gentlemen. It is back, apparently. The night parrot, apparently we hit the right timeline with the night parrot has come back. The night parrot is one of the great natural enigmas left in the world. A parrot that flies but lives in burrows, that's nocturnal and virtually observed by modern science. Unobserved is what I meant by modern science. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that correction. So it burrows into the ground, ladies and gentlemen. It makes a nest in the ground. A parrot. Yes, we're still talking about a bird. You heard that right.
It's a flying mole, right?
Basically, indigenous communities on whose lands night parrot have been confirmed to survive have a sight unseen relationship with the night parrot, identifying it by calls across the desert and dry lands of Western Australia and Queensland. So they hear it. They just haven't actually laid eyes on it, according to them. In 2013, a wildlife photographer captured video footage of a live bird in Queensland, confirming its existence for the first time in almost a century. Since then, they've been identified by their calls in 2 indigenous protected areas. So this is incredible, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know what's more strange, the fact that it's a bird that lives in the ground or the fact that it is a Lazarus animal. Both of them are fascinating. Team, what do you guys think?
100
I think
years.
it's wild, that beak. You see in the green version down there that the beak is almost looks like more like the front of a mole than it does a bird. It doesn't. It's really snubby looking. So yeah, it looks different. I've never seen anything like that. It looks more like a bird on the night vision video picture on the right, but yeah, it's very strange that it lives in the ground. It only comes out at night like bats. I could go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Well, I was just, to me, it's impressive that the indigenous land is where they were used to hearing the calls.
That's true.
Of this burrowing night owl, the night parrot. Sorry, it's not an owl, it's a parrot. So it seems like if it was around in the last 100 years, the indigenous people would have heard it. They're tuned into nature. It's not like your typical Westerners with their devices blaring all night long. They're more likely to have still stayed close to nature, gone on walks, and heard it. So the fact that it was missing for 100 years is really significant. So I think this totally qualifies as back from extinction, as a number of animals and plants have been noted in our shows. So, but you're right. I don't know which is weirder, that we've got a burrowing parrot or that it's back from extinction. They're both strange.
I think it's weird that they heard it and never could find it. I mean, that's what I don't get. So a cat never brought it back, or that I think but it's pretty neat. I mean, if it's always been or been extinct for 100 years, it's good to see a species come back or be found. It's awesome, especially a new species like that. I think that's pretty neat. It's interesting, a new world. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So years ago, Lee, when we started this show, as a matter of fact, right before that, I had started noticing that the list of Lazarus animals, this is legit a scientific thing, Lazarus animals.
Okay.
Animals that are coming back from extinction. I noticed this list was growing exponentially.
Yes.
And I was quite amazed that with the Mandela Effect going on, we've got these extinct creatures just all of a sudden coming back as if they were never gone to begin with. So it's something we've noticed and we've tracked for a long time, that the white animals and the rainbow animals have been things we have tracked on this show for 4 or 5 years now.
Yep.
So what do they call that one time period where the Cambrian explosion or something like that? It was like it kind of messes up the evolutionary record because like all of these different species popped in at one time. Do you guys remember what that period is? Makes me wonder if we, if that just comes around in cycles, where everything kind of resets, and if anything disappeared, it's back again. And, from the fossil record, because if you look at like these birds, they would have just kind of appeared to just come right back out of nowhere. So if you sort of cut the history off so far back, it's going to look like they weren't here and then they were, and there's no evolutionary line for them to, how did they get here? So many different links. So it's just interesting to see things working like this, and it makes things in history make a little bit more sense, maybe.
It definitely throws a little wrench into that whole Darwinism thing, right? Right.
Every time I hear that, all I can think is Robin Williams talking about God and him having it out.
Oh man, that was so funny. Robin was such a genius, man.
With the platypus. I think that's
And Heather, Melinda Iverson is pointing out we also have covered gold animals. So that's in the chat. And that's a good point. So gold animals also. That's along with the white and the rainbow and Lazarus.
And the Lazarus. And like I said, I've got a deep, deep spot for the Lazarus animals because this is one that I followed for so long. I know there's something to this. I don't know what answer it is yet, but I know it's important.
It was predicted by the Hopi also that the extinct plants and animals would be coming back at the time of moving from the fourth world to the fifth. It's just one of those things that happens when you go from like the first world to the second to the third to the fourth is where we are. And then they said when we go from the fourth to the fifth, that's what happens. It's like a timeline convergence is what we might say in physics, that there's something happening where these timelines it's kind of crazy. I know if Chris was here, he'd talk about his hairball timelines.
I told you it was important, Bagga.
It is important. It is. And so that means that things that were extinct, maybe for like we've seen things extinct, like those California clams, they came back after 10,000 years.
I was going to say, we had one that was like big. Yeah.
And the coelacanth came back, and that was like after millions of years. In the Galapagos, we had the biggest tortoise of all. Like, how could that have gone? Yeah. It went extinct, and now the biggest one of all is back. And you better believe scientists have an eye on the Galapagos. They've been watching that closely. So these are extraordinary reminders that something bigger than what seems to be happening is totally happening. The Mandela Effect is huge, very exciting, and indicative of something much bigger than just something small. Yeah, it's a huge ontological shift happening.
Absolutely.
An ontological shock, if I didn't know anything. Check out our Green Room episode, ladies and gentlemen, over on Patreon. We appreciate all of our Patreon members, folks. You guys really, really do make all of this possible. So thank you guys so much if you're a Patreon member. If not, make sure you go on over and check that out. Special Green Room episodes only Patreon members get. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, appreciate the plug time there. Let's roll on back into the slide deck here and see what we have next. Are penguins really extinct? Well, who would say such a goofy thing? You can see them at the North Pole and South Pole, or one of the poles all the time in Australia and apparently every continent on the planet anymore, in deserts and everywhere else. But, ladies and gentlemen, are they penguins that we're looking at? Penguin species have gone extinct, including the great auk and giant penguins. There are currently 2 endangered species of flightless birds that we call penguin, the African and the emperor penguin, that are actually not penguins. They're not the original auks or the giant penguins. These are completely different altogether, and we've just given them the same name. Is that the way I'm understanding this?
Absolutely. So I think it's more of a fun fact going around than a Mandela effect.
But is this new for anyone? To me, this is a Mandela effect, because, like, hold the fort. Wait a minute.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Like,
it could be.
Think about that. Like, wouldn't someone have, like, this is a teaching opportunity. All the professors, all the teachers would have said, well, remember, what we call penguins now, they're not really penguins. Everybody would have pointed that out. Why are we just hearing this now?
And this only came to light, what, a week or 2 ago that this actually started coming up? I'm sorry, Lee, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was like, I saw some a couple of years ago. I went to Busch Gardens. They had some penguins in the water. But I guess they were the empire penguins. No, I got to go back on my camera and look, but they was penguins. To me, they was penguins.
But again, are what we call penguins actually penguins? Or did we just name another species something that the other died out? You know what I mean?
So I guess what we actually got here, the ones on the right are actual penguins with their scientific name. The ones on the left, they're not penguins with their scientific name, but we've named them penguins with their common names of what we call them. I've never even heard of the African penguin. Them things are cute. I've never seen them. I've only seen the emperor penguins. In my mind, I know of the emperor penguins.
What about the
main penguin?
So the ones on the right, they're not something out of a horror video game. Those are what the great auks actually look like.
Right.
Yeah, they look kind of like crows with those large beaks. It looks very different.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes that just really give me the.
Well, those are actually little white patches. The eyes are near them. They're made.
They're near them.
Yeah, they're like right at the edge of the big white circle.
Oh,
Can't really.
I should blow
you can
that
see on the one.
It only got creepier when she made it bigger.
I want to see it waddle. I want to see it waddle and carry an egg.
It's gone.
Right. But
Maybe
did we have 2 slides on this? I do believe.
There's another. Yeah, we have one more slide. Next slide. There.
The emperor penguins and great auks are not closely related. The great auks are extinct, and modern-day penguins belong to the Spheniscidae family. Yeah, I butchered that. So whatever scientist out there yelling, how dare you try to say that word wrong? I'm sorry.
Look how small his arms are. His arms are so small. I guess.
Yeah, they actually are smaller. There were bigger ones called giant penguins, and they were actually a little bit larger than the emperor penguins. So yeah,
this looks like a dodo bird, honestly.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know how it would swim with that little flap. I don't know.
It's wild.
It makes me ask questions.
So would we have heard about this? Would we have heard that penguins aren't really penguins? That's really the thing I certainly haven't heard.
I would think so.
And it seems to be trending all of the sudden now. It's like,
right.
Oh my gosh.
I think we covered penguins last month. We were talking about desert penguins that lived in sort of very dry conditions, and very strange miniature penguins and all that sort of thing. And even then, we did not notice that none of them were actually penguins. So that was we were informed by one of our viewers about this, and so that's how this whole thing came to our attention. Because last month we were talking again about penguins, but apparently they weren't penguins. What little did we know. So, very strange.
That is absolutely fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. And like you point out, this only came around the last couple weeks. This only just started trending, these new facts. And it's funny because these new facts come out all the time and you think, well, somebody's making this stuff up. They're just trying to get clicks. And then you go look and do the research and you're like, no, wait, what? How? No. How do we not know about this? Is this a way to cover up Mandela effects? Right? Oh, there's new facts, right? Facts you may not know, facts you've never heard because they weren't facts before.
And common misperceptions being the way it used to always be. Common misperception meaning that's the way it used to be. We had the yellow sun. We had Beam Me Up, Scotty. We had Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. We had all that stuff. Yeah, we
Jiffy peanut butter.
Jiffy peanut butter. Jiffy. Yeah. And we had penguins. These were penguins. Oh my gosh.
Have we discussed the yellow in addition to the white and the black on the penguins? Have we talked about that before?
I'm not sure.
What do you mean, Shane? Yeah, clarify. Go into it.
Just that of the yellow being something new on the penguins. Or what we're calling the penguins.
It's possible we covered it early on, like back in 2020. It feels I remember we did, but sometimes I remember that, and then it turns out we didn't.
Right, that's why I'm asking, because I don't really know, but I know at some point that seeing that yellow sort of surprised me on these.
I think we did, yeah. It reminds me we've covered color changes on the loon. I know that for sure because Christopher Anatra, that's resonant for him. Right. With his family name, Anatra, meaning duck, and then the loon and so forth. I'm pretty sure we did for what we thought was a penguin also.
Now, let me ask the team, have you heard of great auks? Outside of this fact here, have you heard of a great auk before?
In a distant way, like decades ago. I do vaguely remember something about that. Yeah, so it's not like out of thin air. I do remember.
Right. Shane?
Not vividly.
Not vividly, Lee?
No, I think it'd be something I might have when we were learning about penguins, probably, but no, I don't think that's always teach it.
I don't remember.
I've heard of a great auk. I have heard of that before. Like that's not a brand, like Cynthia said, that's not something that just out of the blue come up out, that's not a new name for me or new word. I've heard of that species existing. I've never heard of it being the actual penguin, not what we call today penguins. That's a new piece of the story to me, but I've heard of great auks. You know what I'm saying?
And I have a question, like for whoever's orchestrating this whole penguin situation. It's like question is, hey, teacher, now what do we call what we used to call penguins? Because if they're not penguins, what do we really call them now? And I don't know. Like if they're not penguins, what are they? And what we're currently calling the penguins? Then, like if we want to connect this backstory so that this whole reality shift Mandela effect has some sort of continuity here, then what was the new name for what used to be penguins, what we now call what? Hopefully not penguins.
Hopefully not sphenisticate or sphenisticate or whatever.
Sophisticated, cut a yeah.
No.
We've got some person that studies penguins out there pulling their hair out. No,
No.
And to USA, sorry. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, the great auk was the actual penguin. What we call penguins today are imposters. They're imposter penguins. They're not real.
So sad.
Darned imposters. I think ours are cuter, honestly.
Imposters in a tuxedo, right?
So Happy Feet's not really penguins dancing.
Nope, they're just tuxedo birds.
Oh man.
Unless you can pronounce that word, Spencer, whatever.
Tuxedo birds.
Tuxedo birds. Hey, they dress better than the rest of us on a daily basis, right?
Every day.
Oh, they got the gold chains on, blinging.
Funny. Anything in the chat on this one? Let's hear from anybody that's got comments.
Rose said, I thought
Rose
the ox
says
was
yes.
white.
What he said.
Nice.
It says that she has heard of ox before, thought they were white. Yep.
Happy feet.
Happy feet, says Melinda Iverson in.
Yeah.
What's wrong now?
That was a cute movie.
Very
Said it
cute.
looked like a dodo bird. It's Rose. Yeah. A foot of
It did. Swear to God, it did. And, you know, that would be like us taking a species we find today and calling it a dodo bird, even though the dodo bird's extinct, right? That's the exact same thing they're saying happened with the penguin.
Right.
It makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Especially when it's not related. So was it existing side by side and posturing as a penguin next to the great auk? Was there conspiracy for them to get rid of the originals?
Well, was this the penguin version of the caveman and all that, right? Of the what do they call that? You know what I'm trying to say,
Well, we've got a penguin conspiracy theory here.
right?
Gypsy JJ says, why can't there just be different breeds of penguins? And
Right.
there actually are. These just aren't two of them. Yeah, it's just like they're not related, even though, you know, we call them that. They're just not related closely. Anyway.
Neanderthal is the word that I was struggling to look for a moment ago. It's like the Neanderthal versus the modern human, right? Is this the penguin version of the Neanderthal versus modern human? One of them died out, the other one survived, right? Like,
yeah.
Living
One
side
ate the
by
mushroom,
side,
one
but different. One ate the mushroom and one didn't.
Stone ape theory, you know? Who knows?
Oh, look.
Happened with the penguins?
Miranda
I think there's something to the stoned ape theory, honestly. Go ahead.
Miranda Anderson, she knew exactly the word you were groping for there.
Neanderthal. Thank you, Miranda. I'm sure as soon as it hit my head, it hit the chat too, most likely. At 2:22 p.m. on my side. I'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
Speaking of all day long, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we do not have. So let's slip back into our slide deck over here and see what we have next. We've got so before we get into this, because we've made pretty good time today, I've got a question for you guys. Heather, could you get some Statue of Liberty pictures ready for me in the background? I would very much appreciate that, even if you just got to pull up the Google search page. For the team and for everybody in chat, when you are looking face on at the Statue of Liberty, on what side is she holding up her torch? Is it face on? Not from her perspective, from our perspective. Is it on the right side or the left side that she's holding the torch into the air? Cynthia?
Drum roll, please.
I remember.
What do you remember?
I remember it's her left hand, so it looks like my right if I'm looking at her. So that's what I clearly remember. It's her left hand.
Okay, and Shane?
My left, her right, I think. So what are we doing? Our
What you remember?
on the left
if you're
side.
looking at her, if you're looking at her straight on,
right?
Would her hand be up from your perspective on the right or the left?
Her right hand up, my left. Yeah.
See, I would say stand behind her, act like you're the Statue of Liberty, but
right. Lee, what do you remember? The right or the left as far as
I
looking
got
at
them
her?
both, but I remember it being always left to right, her hand in the left hand.
Mm-hmm.
So her left then, yes. So her left says Melinda. Her right, my left says Rose. Left says Lisa. Right says Miranda. Do we have any? Left says Gypsy. Left says Melinda. EFH says left. Heather, producer Heather, could I get a picture of the Statue of Liberty on screen, please? Because this one blew my mind, folks. It looks like it's on my right, or her right, my left. Right?
Yeah, this is a big switch for me. That's not the way it used to be for me.
This is wrong for me.
Yeah. She held the book in her right hand and the torch with her left.
Right. It should be opposite where she's standing right now. This should be a mirrored image. Her other arm should be up. The book should be opposite where it's at right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
Lee?
Nowadays, yes, but I remember it opposite. I remember it totally opposite, because it's now she's got the torch in the right hand.
Yeah.
Right.
So I remember it in the left.
In the book in the right.
See, I remember it exactly opposite of what I'm looking at right now. The arm that's up and the arm that's down, I remember them being reversed. Shane, what do you remember?
This is how I remember it right here.
This is how you remember it? And that's fair. That is absolutely fair. I seen it earlier and went, no. To me, that is 100% different. To me, I get that Mandela Effect feeling when I see it. Like, no, that's not right. That's not how it matches my memory. That's me.
And I'll say I'm not 100% the other way either. You know how I'll say if I am, I'm just not really sure, but this looks okay to me. It doesn't stand out as being odd, but I've considered it before.
The only reason I say that,
it's deeply disturbing.
I play Monopoly Go. And I don't know if Heather got the picture I emailed her a minute ago. I play Monopoly Go, and well, it has it how I remember it. Yes. And I don't know if she got it or not. You can let me know. If not, I have it ready on my phone. So, but if you can, I'll actually.
Oh, yeah, that's how you remember it?
Yep. Nice. And that's off of Monopoly Go.
Right. Yes, like that. Yes, that's how I remember it. Oh, okay, it's a little cartoonish, this one, but it's the concept. Yes, that's the sides are correct.
Did they reverse? Go ahead.
I remember thinking about people that used to go inside the torch, and it would be inside. They'd be going up on that side on the left hand.
There we go. We got it on screen now, folks. So this is what again. The concept of what I remember. No, I don't remember a big green thing standing in the harbor that looked like this.
But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I can't really say it's never stood out one way or the other. But I know, like, all the trades I've done, whether it's drywall taping or painting or anything like that, that's always the position I am in, holding something with the left and using the right with the paintbrush or tool or whatever. So it feels right to me the new way.
So we've got Miranda saying, I don't remember her clearly either way, but now they both look right to me. The dual memory, that is so aggravating, the dual memory. This does look a little bit weird, though, she says. Like it's fake or something. Not yours, Lee's, the one before that, the one that we were showing, the actual.
I know.
Lee's really looks fake.
Right. Unquestionably looks fake, right? No, not at all. Gypsy JJ says, this is the way I've known her standing. And this is always fascinating to me when we have a 50-50 split here in a chat like this, because there is no right answer. I mean, reality records one thing. We remember some of us remember something different. Some of us don't. There's no right answer to this. It's what you remember. And Miranda goes on to say, that does look more right in reference to Lee's picture. For some reason, the gummy bear looking thing looked more right. I'm kidding.
No, I agree. Though, when I saw
if it would have had a monocle, you would have known who it was.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Leave it to Monopoly, right?
I have to agree. It didn't look as weird as I thought it would. Seeing it the other way, it felt right that way too to me. So I could have totally not noticed. I definitely
love it.
noticed it's in a new place. I know it was on Ellis. We were talking about this before we went live because, we'd always collect little things wherever we went on vacation. And there was this one Statue of Liberty in the basement. And I don't remember which arm was up, but I remember it said Ellis Island on the pedestal of it, So that's how I knew where the Statue of Liberty was. And for those who don't know, it's on Liberty Island now. It never was on Ellis Island. That's how I knew about Ellis Island,
Right. I never heard of Liberty Island.
Right.
And to me, this whole thing must have changed in the last 10 years because back around 2015, I'm pretty sure I was hearing about people that used to go inside the hand, in the torch. That was about 10 years ago. And the hand looked correct to me at that time, the left hand, her left hand. And now I can't even see any pictures of that. So for me, it's, in the linear timeline, it would be for me in the last 10 years. It seems like it's changed. I don't know when, because this is shocking to me. This
is one that has a lot.
And this is another one. I was gonna say we've seen her change over and over and over. There's been all kind of even small things that have been pointed out over the years. Eva, Once Upon a Timeline, has followed the Statue of Liberty changes for a long time now.
Yes.
Wasn't the feet being exposed or covered? Wasn't that another one? Like,
yep,
you used to be able to see them, or you can see them now, or something like that.
Something like that. I can't remember.
Raisin now too. There's a lot of ones for her, and it's
the Black Tom attack, the bomb that damaged
because it got damaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's apparently when they stopped letting people in it, all the way up to the torch. Because I remember that's when they said that's the time when they stopped it, when they did it. Is after that,
which would have been before our lifetime,
right?
I mean, people in our lifetime wouldn't have.
And that Black Tom explosion itself is a Mandela effect because a lot of people say that never used to have happened, and now it's happened. So very interesting.
Things are happening in history.
And for those who don't know, we should probably mention one of the biggest ones is that the Statue of Liberty isn't even in New York anymore.
Nope.
I guess those
Liberty
drones
Island
carried it over to
where?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Oh my gosh.
Well, if it's just an island, it's just moving anyway, right?
Right.
it's just moving with the plantonic plates. That's all it is doing, right?
It's all
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do have the questions opened up on the floor. Questions. It looks like we have collected at least a couple of them through the episode. I thought I seen one lit up here earlier also. Maybe she grabbed that. I'm not sure. But ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and go to the questions and comments while you're throwing questions into the chat, folks, and see what we've got on some of our videos that you guys have left. We do really appreciate you guys stopping by our videos on YouTube and leaving comments down below. We do read those. We do feature them sometimes on these shows, as we will do right now. Go ahead with our first mailbag, please. This is on the Celestial and Terrestrial Mandela Effects, Season 4, Episode 10. We have the question: do the swimming kangaroos go to Indonesia? Maybe. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe. Cynthia?
Yeah, I don't know either. It seems like it's possible. I don't know. The whole thing about these swimming kangaroos is still new for me, so I don't have much additional information on where they go, where they're found, or what's happening with them.
Maybe the imposter penguins can teach them.
Yeah. That could be.
What do you think, Shane? Did the swimming kangaroos go to Indonesia?
I was just wondering if that was a reference to where Australia moved or something. I'm trying to. Oh, is it because Australia's oh, okay. I got your joke there. It's closer to Indonesia now. Because many people remember Australia being further south, right?
I think that's the real question here. It's just a geographic question, perhaps.
Right.
Like the change in.
I mean, I don't remember it being butted up against. What is that? It's right up against
Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea. That's it. New Guinea.
Yeah, it looks like it could have definitely swam across there. There's a string of islands, and so I don't know.
I would say yes. It's a good likelihood that the small area that it now has to traverse, it has a good possibility of going to Indonesia opposed to where Australia we remember being, which you had to go a long way of ocean to get anywhere away from Australia from where we remember it.
Right.
Right.
Then
And
again,
it
I think
always,
the Earth is bigger than.
and it seemed to be the furthest south, other than the southern, Antarctica. It was the furthest landmass south, and now we have New Zealand further south. So New Zealand's changing in relationship to Australia for a lot of people, I believe.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
definitely. I've watched New Zealand dance all the way around Australia. Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, totally.
What were you saying, Lee? I'm sorry.
I can't see these 200-pound animals swimming that far. Never. I had to look it up if kangaroos can swim.
Yeah, that's why. That actual episode we were discussing, because no one knew that they swam. So,
But they can only swim up to long distances, or to short distances. But I mean, like I said, if now Indonesia is so much closer, I mean, if they had to, I guess they could. Won't mind away, wouldn't want to, but
So, do swimming kangaroos go to Indonesia? We're going to have to go jump in a pouch and find out. Next, next question, please. All right, I'm going to have to get really close to read this one. Why doesn't anyone hardly mention the drastic geographic changes? Thank you, producer. That is the most convincing part of all this to me, and I agree. We don't hear about this as much as we should. China, Japan, Korea, Kazakhstan, Australia, New Zealand, Greenland, northwest corner of Washington State, Vancouver Island, Thailand, Ethiopia, Italy, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Los Angeles, South America, Cuba, etc. So why don't we hear more about the geographic changes? And of course, this is on Lee Allen Boggess video, our special guest host today. The Mandela Effect, past, present, and future was his talk at the conference. You guys make sure you go check that out. But Preliminal leaves this question: why do we not hardly hear mention the drastic geographic changes? Team?
Well, we do our part on this show. We frequently bring them up. We've covered changes to Italy. We've talked about Sicily, the size and shape of it changing. In fact, recently, like last month or the month before. So we're doing the best we can with it. And of course, Shane's love map is famous right from our very first gathering back in 2019. And then we picked up his love map again, 2020, looking at changes that had just happened since we'd last seen his map. And that's extraordinary stuff. And then, of course, we've talked about the Straits of Gibraltar. It used to be straits and it used to be an island, and now it's not. We've covered so much of this. So if you're talking in generalities about why there isn't more of it, I think that's the point of the question. And I think we're aware that this phenomenon affects every single aspect of our lives. And so geography, it's big, yes, obviously, but there's also the celestial things that are happening, in the skies, the stars. We talked about Carl Sagan and where we are in the cosmos. That's changing. So you could call that geography of a sort. We definitely do the best we can to cover it, but it's the Mandela effect itself pretty much affects all of reality. So we're doing the best we can with it. So I'm not sure what else we could do that would be better, but maybe somebody else could add to that.
Shane?
Yeah, I can just say that, it seems to be changing so much. And I mean, you've mentioned some things here that I'm not sure if I even have heard about it, like China,
Same.
Japan, and Korea, and Kazakhstan. We were just talking about the Australia and New Zealand one. I think them are pretty popular. I've heard about Greenland looking way bigger or smaller, but a lot of that can have to do with how they produce the map.
Cuba, we've discussed before.
Yeah, we've discussed some of these before, and it would be great if we could maybe dedicate one where you can have it all in one location to get current changes with some of these things we see, like the way South America has moved. I've heard reports of people that drove, from East Coast to West Coast, and they said there's like a whole nother, the mileage was different, taking the same path.
It's 1,000.
Yeah. So there's been things like that. So, and I've noticed things like that I can't really point to as a geographical change on the whole, but I've noticed things in my neighborhood, or just things feeling different about time to travel, or I've even had it where like I've jumped over exits on the highway. I've talked about that before, like you know, so there's weird stuff happening all the time, and I think this is a really good one to look at. I have just never been really too versed in, you know, the geography other than the map that I did. I can definitely see it wasn't the same file I left and that it had been manipulated and changed, but I wasn't always really good about noticing, like, you know, like where New Zealand was in relationship to Australia. So I think that was the first question you asked me like 7 or 8 years ago when we were talking about that. Jerry? Yeah.
Good possibility. It most likely is, yes.
In between talking about that tree during that 6 hours.
Right. Hey, that was a great conversation, man.
We were all over the world.
All over the tree for sure. We went out on a limb more than once. Anyway, I'm full of bad puns today, guys. Lee, why doesn't in general anyone hardly mention the geographic changes?
I think all in all, you know, like I said, I've mentioned a few too. We all try, you know, it's really, really tough in a sense to see all the changes and certain things that people would be keen to, especially in those, you know, different certain areas where they are getting changed. Somebody said Cuba, actually in the chat earlier too. For me, Cuba is getting bigger and closer to Florida because I live in Florida. So, you know, in South Africa, you know, you see those stuff, but I think that we don't look at a map as much as we used to as well. And I don't think we're around maps enough. I mean, for myself, I'm not, but you know, when it comes across, I might look at it change or see the Weather Channel, see like, that doesn't look right. Or, you know, something like that. But unless it's a drastic really change, it's something that a lot of people won't talk about. You know, I think it's just not one of those that will keen people in a Mandela Effect way. In a sense, it's just a geography change. You know, you can put it as, you know, land masses moving, water, oceans. There's so many different, you know, and you know what I mean? There's so many different infrables people can put into that to not, you know, to discredit it as well. So I look at it, it's just, I know at my spot, geographically, if I had his map, I'd do it once or twice and just show it, but it's not really a big eye catcher in a sense, you know, unless we have another island show back up, or, you know, like I said, New Zealand ends up back on the other side of the map. You know, it's weird stuff, you know. If it's not too huge, nobody's really going to notice.
I feel that. Personally, I have watched New Zealand literally dance all the way around Australia. I've seen it on every corner, top, bottom, sides. Like, I've seen it all the way around Australia.
Never made the evening news, did it?
And never touched the evening news. So I think this is a great question. I really do. I like this question. I seen a channel the other day. You remember Bill Maddox? Shane, older guy, has a really creepy voice. He does a lot of like scary, unsolved mystery type stuff on YouTube. I can't remember his channel name right now. Older gentleman, but he was covering it the other day. So I think the reason it doesn't get covered is, number one, it's more of an advanced version. So you've got your basic level Mandela Effects. We've talked about them earlier. Your Febreze, your Jiffy, your Berenstain Bears, the fun ones, the logo ones, the ones that anybody would know. Whereas, as you pointed out, Lee, I don't know the map like that. Or Shane, even I can't tell you where every country is and the way it's shaped and how this. Like, I didn't learn geography like that. I know I take a look at a map and then I take a look again and go, wait, that's not the way the map looked before. South America, way out of place. You know, to me, that's wrong. And I've tracked that actually over the years. I know that one's moving. So, I mean, huge differences like that. Yeah, I totally see those. But I think this is why they don't get covered, because no one's going to go out and say, I'm a map expert and I know that this has changed, or I know, because they're not going to put themselves in that position to be called out, right? Because a lot of people are going to call them out, and they know that, because the only evidence they have is what we're looking at right now. And according to history, it's always been that way, even though we know better. So I think that's what a lot of it has to do with, the fact that it is more advanced. And unless you are that deep into the Mandela Effect, you're not really going to watch it. And I think this is the mindset they have. Now, would it actually move and get people's attention? More likely than not, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, because nobody talks about it. But I think it comes down to the fear of embarrassment, the fear of being called out and being questioned, or, things like that. I think that's got a lot to do with why they don't bring
But
that up.
there's some good news there, because I'm starting to hear. I was going to joke that we don't hear much about the periodic table of the elements changing, but I've heard from a chemist who did have access to her original books, and she was saying this has changed. I know for sure, but that's kind of bizarre, in a sense, to know, like, okay, the atomic number for a particular element is different than it used to be. That would require someone to have really paid that close attention to it in the first place, and then to notice, my goodness, it's different. Like that's not a typical thing. So it ties in, supports what you're saying, Jerry. Like some of these things, they're not going to pop up as often unless you happen to be studying and taking a look at them. Yeah.
You don't see a lot of people doing full videos on the Alive Again phenomena, right? Even though there's been so many of those. Again, this is more advanced. If you go out making a video for the general public talking about this person was dead and now they're alive and they died again, I mean, I can see why people don't do that. I get it, right?
I've done it a few times, and
it doesn't go well, does it?
It don't.
It's
the general public goes, what?
What are you talking about? You losing your mind? Bob Barker died 4 times. He only died once.
I get the other side of it, because I did cover this in my 1998 book, Reality Shifts. Not only Larry Hagman being dead and alive again, that's an actor. He was on Dallas and so forth, and I Dream of Jeannie, but also a cat being my roommate's cat was dead, and then he was alive again. So I had two of them.
Cat.
I had 2 of them in my first book on this topic in the 1990s. And believe me, I get flooded with emails, people asking, how can I bring back my dead loved one? And so I get flooded with that, because I was one of the first people, before there was the Mandela Effect, I was writing about the Hagman Effect.
Tell me about the Art Bell Mandela Effect moment.
Oh, yes. Well, that is a good one. So Art Bell asked me at one point, after the Mandela Effect came out, Fiona Broome had come out. So it was on Midnight in the Desert after Coast to Coast. You remember he was on Coast to Coast, and he went to a new format, his own show. So he had me as a guest on the show, and he was asking me, Cynthia, would you call this the Mandela Effect? Because the term had just started coming out. And this is, I forget, 2006 or something. And I said, I would not call it that. I would call it the, reality shift, or the alive again, for this particular form of reality shift. And I actually said to him, without explaining it, you've got some splaining to do, which is very funny, because that itself is one of these Mandela effects. Lucille, I love Lucy. She never said that, but I actually said that in the interview with Art Bell. And I didn't make the most of that golden moment, but I really miss Art Bell. I want to give credit to him, because he's one of the first that really heard about this originally, when he got flooded with faxes back when there were faxes about Nelson Mandela, having died, and then he's alive again. So he really
did report that on Coast to Coast in 2001. So
yeah,
he was like, that's the first recorded, even way 10 years before Fiona Broome basically coined he was talking.
And in the and then I was reporting Larry Hagman in the 1990s, that he'd passed away in the 80s and was alive again. So that was my book, Reality Shifts. The first edition of it did say that. So this does go back, and it's very valid. And I think Mark Twain, he said the rumor of my death has been greatly exaggerated. I think he gets credit for being one of the first that people thought he died. And he's like, hello, I'm not dead yet. And people said, like, oh, there was confusion, or they mixed him up with someone. I think it was the Mandela Effect going back that far. I think it's been happening for a long time.
I actually heard Christopher Cross in an interview talking about that. He goes, people meet me all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought you were dead, but he didn't mention the Mandela Effect, but I thought, like, oh my gosh, he's one of the people that people remember him dying at some point, and here he is, and he just experiences it as people saying, oh my God, I thought you died. No, still here.
No, I'm still here.
Sailing. His song Sailing, it's the singer of the song Sailing.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and pull the questions now. We've given the chat quite a good amount of time to pull any questions in chat they may need to put in there.
Did you want
Hey.
we had one more mailbag. Did you want to do that?
Oh, do we have one more mailbag? All right. Are people reluctant to suggest that God is causing the Mandela Effect? Your 2024 Golden Mandy Award recipient Brian Staley holds that belief, as well as many others, including myself. This is from Dawn. This is on IMEC Day 2 panel. One of the best panels I think we've ever done. One of the most important conversations we've probably ever had in this community is in that video right there. I highly encourage anybody to go back and watch that. Please, please, please. Cynthia, Charles, Natasha, and Trish. I think that was a conversation that's absolutely necessary for this community. But question again, are people reluctant to suggest that God is causing the Mandela Effect? So I'm going to take this one starting off myself. I am not reluctant to suggest this, as I have been the one that has been pushing and actually came up with, to the best of my knowledge, prophecy theory. And this is the idea that God is literally telling us, using these Mandela effects, what is to come. And more that we see come to light every day with these different corporations and everything else, the more connections that I find this to be true. So I think that these are messages directly from God. These are the prophecies of what is to come. And if you can read the prophecies right, I believe we'd be able to kind of tell what is in the cards, or what, at least what companies are going to be involved, usually in a negative way, it seems. That's my opinion. That's what I think is going on. So I'm not reluctant to myself. What do you guys think?
I definitely think people are reluctant to suggest that God's causing it, just because of the Bible changes. I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, we can't say God's doing it because God's word doesn't change, and God's word is changing, or they won't even acknowledge that it's changing. So I think it's such a shock to the, to the, people's paradigm and how they think things work or whatever. And it kind of goes against, their belief that, the Bible wouldn't change if God was doing it. But I think there's another group of people that understand that at least God is maybe not causing it, but allowing it to happen. If you believe in higher power, I believe it's definitely a wake-up call from a higher power, God, whatever you want to call it. I felt like that from the beginning, because I felt like it was gentle, like you're not forced to see it. I feel like it's very gentle in that sense, but it's like when you do see it, it's a huge awakening, because it's like, what the heck? So I believe it's kind of set up in a way that's sort of godly, where it can affect one person in a profound way, and another person can just blow it off and get back on their phone. So to me, that's got God's signature written all over it. But I think for a lot of people, maybe it has to do with the Bible changes, that they don't want, it seems like they can say the devil's doing it easier than God's doing it when it comes to the Bible changes.
I'm gonna
That's
go off
fair.
of him real quick. I was like, I'm gonna go
Go
off
ahead.
of him real quick. I think with people seeing the Bible change, they're like, oh, that couldn't be changed. But well, God would change it if he wanted it to, right? That's how I look at it. So there's definitely, and God is a higher source of whatever you want to believe, in a sense, I'm a believer, but it definitely there's definitely messages, Morse code, just like it is in the book. You also got to remember the book's written by man, but stuff like that, you just take it as it is, but it's a sign, it's a message, it's a wake up. And like you said, it's such an easy way to wake you up to a reality of this all, to what it is. It shocks you, pushes you to the core, but it's not like you being the first person. I mean, I could see it actually shocking people who read their Bible religiously and they sleep and flipping. The wolf lays with what? Yeah, I could see that, by far. But I feel like that would also push them more into it and more belief in God or in the creator. You know what I mean? And that's why it's like, we cannot put it out. That's like, who's the only one who could actually change it? Well, why him? And our consciousness. But I think that's got to do with us too, as well. Since we all are gods ourselves, I think our higher consciousness goes within, our collective consciousness also is bringing out these changes as well, because it's time to see the change. It's time to see the truth.
Eyes to see and ears to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a swing here, and I did this at the conference in 24. whichever one that I actually gave a talk at. I want to say that was in 24.
No,
But
23.
was it 23? Okay,
Connecticut.
23 conference. You're right. You're absolutely right. It was 23. Wow. We've had so many now.
We're trucking.
We are definitely trucking through. You bring up, Shane, that a lot of people believe that the Bible is God's word. I've never seen any place where somebody can show me where God wrote down his words. And if you can, I'd love to see it, because
it's in Gematria in Our DNA. The book Pure Human talks, Greg Braden again. He says that it's written right into our DNA. It's like we've got the 4, the G, C, A, and T. And when you decode it into the Gematria of the 4 root languages of humanity, he just took Hebrew, I think. Then you can see it's like God, it's in our, God is here, like inside our body. It's actually saying that. It's actually saying
I'll take
that.
DNA.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely take DNA as an answer to that. But in reference to the Bible changing and the Bible being God's word, I've never seen God write a single thing in the Bible. I've seen a man write something inspired by God.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Again, I just want to shout out to Greg Braden's work. It's excellent. If you look at the Old Testament and you look at the stuff, not the New Testament, but take the first 4 books, he said that you can find anything at all written, like your name, anything, the current president, he'll be in there. It's kind of outrageous. Like, wait a minute. How can that be in there? It's all in there. All of the great, the great people from throughout all of history are in those first 4 books.
Are we talking the Bible code style?
I'm talking the Old Testament in the original languages that they were written in. So you got to go back. There are 4 root languages. So this is
gotcha.
It's like the God code stuff that Greg Braden did. He actually wrote some computer programs to do this, working with the original Old Testament, ran it through with the original root languages, and it's extraordinary. So it's totally worth checking out.
But God's hand did not physically write it, though.
I'm just saying there's something going on there that's far beyond any human. So
I don't discard that at all. I'm just saying we don't have a piece of evidence where God himself has brought his hand onto the earth and written something. Now that probably wouldn't change, but we don't know. We don't have that. We have man's writing inspired by God. Now, I'm not going to say it's not inspired by God. I will take that 110%, that a spirit or something of the other realm was whispering to these people to write these certain things in a way that we would later see, oh my God, how did they know that? There's no way. I will fully give it that. But with that said, I've never seen God's hand itself write anything. So God's word can't change. Well, we don't have God's word to justify that. We've got God that made man, and through man, God does stuff. Yes. Do you see where I'm going with this, right?
But maybe that's where this changed, why it changed in the Bible, is because man rewrote that book in a way where God's word wasn't a word. I don't know. Like I say, I'm the same way too. I don't see it, but I'm also that spiritual person. Like Cynthia said, it's some other force. Like
right.
I said, there's some other force.
Well, I'm sure we could have this conversation for days and still have interesting things to say about it. However, we do have a lot of questions to carry on and get to. I'm sorry to cut you off, Lee. I do apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
But we are coming up on a 2-hour mark, so I do want to make sure that we cover everything, because this topic can get really deep, really, really quick if we're not careful. So I don't want to get hung up on this too much. Even though I'm the one to open that can of worms, so I definitely better be the one to close it back out. Greg Braden's work, I definitely suggest going checking that out. Clearly, I've got some reading to do myself.
He's been on top of this for a long time.
The new book is a great place
really
to start. Yeah, start with Pure Human. I really highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Pure Human. I will definitely, it's on my list for sure. So is that all the mailbags that we had, Cynthia?
Yes.
I believe it was. Okay. So now we have audience questions. And the first question is for Miss Cynthia. It's from EFH. It says, hey, Cynthia, did you find another Cherimoya at the market? This is Sherry. So that looked so delicious, Cynthia. You look like you were thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, I have not yet managed to do that. I know Sherry's so great. She pointed out, hey, your local market has them. but I didn't make it there and I haven't been able to. I've just been busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I have not yet picked one up. I know it's a time thing and they're ripe right now, so I should do that, but sorry about that. Actually, honestly, Sherry's the one that brought it to me. It meant more to me that it was homegrown and that she grew that. To me, that had more meaning. I know that sounds crazy maybe to some people. So it's not the biggest one. Who cares? And she might say, like, it's not the best. I think it was the best because it was grown with love from Sherry and brought by her. So to me, that was the special fruit. That was the good one. And I'll get to the other ones, but I already had the best, I think, because Sherry brought it. So thank you, Sherry.
That is awesome. And my thanks to you, Sherry, for at least having one of us be able to try it. I look forward to trying to. We have not let go of the idea of getting some of this for our conference. We aren't promising anything, but we are looking into it. These things are expensive. They are hard to get across country. They're interesting to source. Let's put it like that. It has definitely been interesting. With that said, do we have any more questions from the audience that we have found through the show? I haven't seen any. I do have a comment here that I would like to point out from Juliana93. It says, I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you all, entire IMEC board, entire IMEC community, for being alive on Mama Earth. You all make me an INFJ RH negative hermit lady feel at home.
That's our people.
We are so very, very glad that you feel so comfortable with us. That is one thing that we strive for, is for lack of a better term, inclusion, for everyone to feel included and appreciated and welcomed, and especially INFJs. For some reason, we all tend to flock into the Mandela Effect. So
I gotta say, when we're together in person, that's the biggest gathering of NFs, intuitive feelers, I've ever experienced in my life. The guy that was doing the finger test readings at our conference in Nashville, he said he'd never seen such high readings for any group of people.
Bill.
I'm pretty sure it was the intuitive feeler quality. And I was walking on clouds and sunshine for at least 3 weeks after the Nashville conference. Outrageously great. Just so great. You know, he was there. We were all there. Oh my gosh. This is great here, but in person, it's off the hook.
There's just something about it that it's so amazing. Cynthia, give us the numbers again on the relation of INFJ to the Mandela community.
Yeah, it's a small sliver. So if you're looking at in my book, Mandela Effect and its Society, I break it down. I show the percentages for each of the 16 Myers-Briggs types. So I would be in the INFJ. That would be introvert versus extrovert. And actually, it doesn't really matter. Extroverts are fine. They tend to, the key for Mandela Effect is the next two, N and F, intuitive feeler. And then the last would be judging or perceiving. And that doesn't matter too much. The big thing, again, intuitive feelers. So that little core group, that intuitive feeler, would be something like 20-something% of the general population. However, it's 70-something% of the experiencers of the Mandela Effect, also of synchronicities. That was studied separately by Dr. Bernard Beitman. And so the information just maps perfectly. And it's
for the INFs for both?
Yeah.
Well, the NF.
NFs, because
whether it's E or I or either way.
Because I'm a P, INFP, right?
NF is the key, and the
I'm
rest of it. Yeah. So, but you were asking INFJ, how rare is that? Extremely rare. That's like the rarest of all of them. They think Jesus Christ was an INFJ. So if you are an INFJ, you can't really find a group of them outside of our conference. Yeah. So big shout out for our conference.
That is really cool. Though. That feels significant, right?
I actually did a pie chart the last time me and Cynthia did a show late last year that showed just how much of a slither it is in the regular general population, but how it's almost like the majority of the people experiencing the Mandela Effect. And when you see it in that pie chart format that I took from the numbers in her book, it's just mind blowing. It really puts it
fascinating.
Yeah,
it's huge. Thank you. Yeah, Shane did a great job drawing that out. So it's on his channel, Unbiased and on the Fence. Yeah, totally. That's
Lee,
great.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that just makes more sense of all the synchronicities we all had during that time last year at the conference. It was just sync after sync after sync, and it explains that it's how much powerful it was at those conferences. That's why like I said, always come out to these things. It's not about about the talks, but it's really about just the camaraderie and the community afterwards, and just you see the magic happen.
We're talking weird synchronicities.
Oh yeah. And people were coming saying God sent me.
Yeah.
Saying my angel sent me. Oh yeah.
I had an experience too, didn't we, Shane? I had some lady show up said, "No, I was supposed to be here. God told me to be here."
Yes.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will take one or two of those and say, okay, maybe, just people saying stuff. What we had more than 5 show up independently say, hey, God told me to show up, so here I am. What? Like when you all come in independently telling me the same thing and you don't know each other? Wow. Like you can't explain
3, 4, 5 hours away. It was even crazier.
Yeah, they say like I got the message, I jumped in the car and I came. I'm like, what? Yeah.
So when Shane, Lee, and I we hung out every evening, us three. We really became pretty close. There was a running joke. I'm going to call Uncle on this one. So Lee had a tin of Altoids and he opened it up and it was written Uncle inside. Well, at some point, he thought Shane had called him Leroy. So it became a running joke of Uncle Leroy. Right. So that became a running joke for 2 or 3 days was this Uncle Leroy. We don't know anybody named with that name. There's nobody around by that name, nothing. So some of us walk over. We're changing hotels, right? The last day of the conference, we changed hotels to do a special function at a different one. We walked over the night before to ensure that the other hotel would be, good to go. And the gentleman that was in the hotel, when we walked in, the worker walked up to us and introduced himself as Uncle Leroy.
Leroy Jenkins.
And it was really an accident because we were talking about our race. We were both mixed races or whatever. And like, oh, you're just like Uncle Lee. And he's like, Uncle Leroy. And I'm like, no, I said Uncle Lee or something. And then it just, it's so weird because it was like a kind of an accidental thing in the middle of us talking that kind of happened. And then we meet Uncle Leroy a couple of days later. Like, what universe is just playing with us now?
Dude walks up and goes, "Hi, I'm Uncle Leroy." I went, "What?"
What's going on? Now there's a video that's on your channel too, right, Shane? With the 3 of you in the car. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you guys got to check that out. Mm-hmm.
I even put a little short out too because we have 2 little orbs flying around our heads.
Oh yeah, did you put that out? Yeah,
I put on a little short, and it we were talking about how our moms were around. They've been around. We've been feeling it, and we were in there recording that video, and he was like, "Hey man, you see these 2 little orbs just floating around us?"
So like our moms hanging out, man.
Yeah, just hanging out. It really is the magic. I call it magic because there's no other way to really present it.
Right.
But
there's no words for it. The English language fails when it comes to trying to describe that. It really does.
That's really what this ontological shock shift that we're talking about is all about, because all the things we're calling magic now are going to be like everyday stuff. We're going to realize like psychic abilities isn't magic.
Our technology is going to run on it too.
Yeah.
It already is running on it. Technically, I really think 5G, 4G, whatever you call it, it's not what it is.
AI, quantum computing, all that stuff. It's going to be, it's bringing it all together. So
get super excited on a chat and see how quickly you lose your internet connection.
Right.
Just saying, I've seen it a number of times. Speaking of number of times, let's go ahead and pull our slides back up real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, we really, really appreciate you guys out there, especially our Patreons. You guys are really what make this able to be done. None of us get a single penny off of any money that is sent in. I've never made a penny off of it. I know the team is not either. All the money goes back into the community, goes back into conferences and everything that entails holding a conference. Let me tell you guys, that's a lot. That is a lot.
And the video production that Heather and the team have put together, and those videos are coming out right now on our channel. My video just came out. I think Shane's yours is hopefully out
too.
Yep, they're all out now. Yeah,
Oh,
because
good.
mine was
They're
the
all
last
there.
one to get out. Yeah.
So everything's out so that you can
Yeah.
check all of those. It's like seeing the conference, and it's just the second best thing to being there.
I'm going to have to go back and actually watch the conference now. I'm kidding.
It is like that though, because you're there and you get kind of tunnel vision and you'll miss a lot of things. It's great to watch again. So,
Oh man, I've listened to a lot of these talks already. I haven't listened to all of them yet. I've still got to go back, but I've re-listened to a lot of these talks. I'm like, man, I was sitting there. I don't even remember them saying that. Oh, what?
yeah.
I wasn't paying attention at the moment. But ladies and gentlemen, our Patreons really, really do support us and help us do what we do here. So
Thank you.
if you want to help support us, folks, every month, once a month, right before our show, we record a very special Green Room episode. That Green Room episode is put up on Patreon just for the Patreons only. So every month you get a brand new episode, and it's really cheap.
And it's tax deductible. We are a 501c3 organization.
Absolutely. So keep any receipts you may get. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we do have gifting available on the channel if you want to send stickers, comments, things like that. I should have said that earlier in the show, but ladies and gentlemen, once again, huge shout out to all of our amazing Patreons. You guys are what really make this possible. If you want to join and help support us, we'd very, very much appreciate that. Next slide, please. Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2 dates coming up. We have Wednesday, March the 19th, 2025, for the next IMEC Open Tables mini conference. And then Wednesday, April 23rd, 10 days after my birthday. How you like that? April 23rd, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just take the whole month. There we go. It'll be my birthday month, right? April 23rd, we have our next one after the March one. So do mark your calendars, folks. We hope to see you all here on each of these. Send it out. Tell your friends. Mark your Google Calendar so you have your reminders set. Let everybody know to come see us on March 19th or April 23rd. Next slide, please.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What were you saying, Shane?
I was gonna say something about the date, but go ahead. You got it. I was just thinking how weird 2025 sounds when you said that. I'm like, 2025. You know?
And as soon as we get used to hearing it, it'll be 2026, dude. Every time, man. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure most of our people hanging out with us are. But huge shout out to Parody, Mike, Rose in the chat, Gypsy, JJ, Juliana93, Preliminal hanging out. I hope he heard his question earlier. Jen Hari, again, Juliana93. And Miranda Anderson, as well as Melinda Iverson I believe that's Silver, as well as Roth and EFH. And I believe that's everybody. If I forgot you, I do apologize. Huge thank you and shout out to Lee Boggess. How was it, Lee? You survived it the whole way. What'd you think?
Dude, I loved it. I mean, this is exactly what I've always meant to do. No, it's enjoying. And it's even better that I got to go to the conference and speak and be with y'all. So I've spoken to y'all so many times now. It's we're family, and it's amazing. And you talked about the synchronicities earlier with with Uncle Leroy. I cannot just with me and Cynthia and our daddy Richard, like Papa Richard, had amazing ones too as well. Our personal ones. It really was. So this is just a little bit still putting icing on the cake. We're just putting towers on it still, but no, this is amazing, and for everybody out there, I thank y'all on the live, get to watch me spill me and talk and be part of this amazing community and this amazing channel, this amazing, international Mandela Effect. It's just them, Heather in the background doing what she does. I mean, it's amazing what they do, and it's amazing to be part of this and to be asked to be one of the be asked to come up here to take Chris's place. So it was pretty nice today.
Well, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you, Lee. We're so glad you decided to join us. Thank you so very much. I think you did a great job, man. I do. I think you did an amazing job. That was so much fun. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson of RealityShifters.com, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence, Lee Boggess of Crazies Lab at YouTube, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. This is the International Mandela Effect Conference. And remember, until next we meet, ladies and gentlemen, together we go. Together we grow. Bye, everybody.
Love
Bye,
you
everyone.
guys.